The number one thing I hear students ask all the time is, how do I sound like a native speaker? This is because they feel that their pronunciation is not good enough. This has happened in Vietnam and also here in Japan. In my experience, there's been a lot of pronunciation challenges in both nations. And I'm here to tell you the reasons why most students won't ever sound like a native speaker unless they fix these things. The first factor that is affecting your English pronunciation skills is your knowledge of English phonics, or should I say, lack thereof. In English, there are 44 different sounds. The British pronunciation has 44 different sounds. The American one has slightly less, but most of them are transferable. The phonemic chart, as you can see here, shows you how everything should be pronounced. In the dictionary, you'll see the word, its word form, and then also its pronunciation, how it's supposed to be pronounced. Those little symbols come from this chart. If you want to sound like a native speaker, mastering this chart and fully understanding it is one way that you can do that. Additionally, each individual sound has its own mouth position. So understanding how to position your mouth, your tongue, your teeth, everything is really going to help you, because many languages don't have some of these sounds, and the mouth positions are either completely different or slightly different. So understanding this chart and how your mouth is supposed to be is going to really help you with understanding how to pronounce words that you see. I recommend looking words up in the dictionary and seeing their phonemic pronunciation and practice them that way. The second thing that is affecting your English pronunciation is not doing connected speech. In Vietnam, there were many times where I had students read a sentence that was contracted, like this one here. It says, I don't want to go to the store. People in Vietnam would say, I do not want to go to the store, even though it's contracted. This is a problem. You must contract in English to sound more like a native speaker. Only when speaking. Contracted speech in writing is usually informal, and we try to stay away from it. But when you're speaking, contracting makes you sound more native. Now, there are 5 different types of connected speech that are affecting your pronunciation that you're not even realizing. The first one is called catenation, which is also known as linking. This happens when 2 sounds become linked together. So let me show you an example. If you take the 2 words an apple, when you say them together, it sounds like an apple, one word. It doesn't sound like an apple, one word. The next one is called intrusion. Intrusion is when another sound is added in between 2 words to make them flow together. So let's take this example. Do plus it becomes do it. Do it. As you can see there, a W was put in between those 2 sounds. So that's why it sounds completely different. The next one is called elision, and that's when a sound is actually taken out of the word. So let's take this for example. Most common. If you say it in native speech, it sounds like most common. As you can see there, the T sound is gone, right? You don't hear the T sound. So most common, most common, most common. The next one is assimilation. Assimilation is when 2 sounds are blended together to form a completely different sound. So let's take this for example. Don't you becomes don't you. Did you hear what I did there? The chew was formed by combining the T sound and the Y sound from you. Chew, don't chew. And then the last one is called geminates, and this is basically elongated sounds. So basically, this is when you have a similar sound at the end of a word and another similar sound at the beginning of a word. They blend together to have elongated sound. So let's take this for example. Social life becomes social life. As you can see, the 2 L's become 1 L. So learning connected speech and understanding these will help you blend words together to sound more like a native speaker. The third thing that many students don't understand is stress and intonation patterns. In many languages such as Vietnamese and Japanese, their intonation and stress patterns are all over the place. Vietnamese, for example, is a very tonal language. Therefore, stress is put on every syllable. That's why when they speak English, it sounds very choppy. For Japanese, it's very monotone, just a very flat tone. So this affects how certain words are pronounced, and it also affects the meaning of what they're trying to say. They may ask you a very simple question in their English, but then it might seem like they're being rude or not interested, when in reality, they're just speaking in a monotone. So in English, both words and sentences are stressed. And it's important to understand where in each word there's stress, but also when you're speaking a sentence, you should be stressing words that are most important. And this is highly subjective. You can put emphasis on different types of words, depending on how you are feeling or what you want to emphasize. But the main thing here is to understand word stress and how to understand when to put stress on the first syllable, second syllable, last syllable, so on and so forth. And in English, actually, many words have different stress patterns depending on what kind of word form they are. For example, the word perfect. When you use it as an adjective, it sounds like this, perfect. But if you use it as a verb, it sounds like this, perfect. So when you put stress in the beginning, you're using it as an adjective. When you put stress at the end, you're using it as a verb. So watching your stress on the words that you say is very important because it may affect the meaning of what you're trying to say. Number 4 is lack of exposure to native sounding speech, and this is a big one. So if you're learning English in your home country, you're automatically at a disadvantage compared to those who are learning English in a native speaking country like the US, UK, and Australia. This is because the environment you're in is what's called an EFL environment, or English as a foreign language environment. This means that you only are learning English in school. You're not learning it anywhere else. You're not forced to use it in your environment. Therefore, in this type of environment, if you want to achieve native sounding speech, you must have a native English speaker, tutor, or parent. There's no other way. You also need to consider, what are you doing outside of your environment? Are you consuming a lot of content in English outside of class? Are you interacting with people who are native speakers constantly? Because if you are in your environment, in your home country's environment, you're probably not doing this, and this is what's leading to you being in cycles of repeating the same type of English with an accent. Students who learn in an ESL environment often learn much faster because they have to use it every single day. They're always surrounded by the native sounding speech, whether it be in the media, it could be in their communities, and the people that they interact with. So those types of people are going to have better sounding English because they're in that environment constantly. Now, my advice for those in an EFL environment, if you want to improve your pronunciation drastically, dedicate 6 months to a year to just listening to English-related content that you're interested in. Speak to your friends, family, and others only in English whenever possible. This will help you drastically improve your pronunciation. Or the last factor that is affecting your English pronunciation is lack of patience, practice, and perseverance. Let me explain. Humans are hardwired to do the easiest thing possible, and learning a language is super hard. It is super easy to just give up and, just accept the fact that you're never going to sound like a native speaker and your pronunciation is not going to improve. You might be speaking with a friend who is also learning English, but then as soon as you both don't know a word or you give up on speaking English, you go back to your mother tongue, and then that opportunity is lost. So pronunciation requires you to activate both your listening and your speaking skills. So if you have a solid foundation of phonics, you put in enough practice, and you don't give up whenever the times get tough, you're going to improve your pronunciation drastically. Those are the 5 things that are holding you back from having a native sounding English speech. If you are actively trying to improve your pronunciation, take some of these tips and put them into practice today. It's surprising how fast you can improve your English pronunciation if you're just made aware of these things. If you'd like a free PDF of the phonemic chart that I put together, I'll include it in the description below. You can download it from my website and start practicing today.